models. Welcome, mere models, to another round of the mere mortals. You are the mere mortalites, actually. This is Kieran here on this side.
Juan here.
On the 1st of November of 2023. We're coming in slightly late, but that's all right. And the Mere Mortals is a show where we dive deep into particular topics, a Musings episode in particular, usually like effective philosophy. So we're trying to relate concepts that are maybe a little bit grander and bring them down to real life and see how they influence and impact our everyday life. So today's topic was one I picked, and it's on integrity. So I actually have to thank someone who's in the chat right now. So we are live on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. And Lucas in the chat was the one who prompted this, and he was asking for like your training notes. How do you take your training notes for fitness? And I was like, okay, yeah, that's a topic. I can work with that.
Okay, yep.
But then a couple other things happened, so I slightly changed it. So we will talk about that, but
we're brewing it all the way to integrity.
Yeah, exactly. So there was two other things that were going on. One was we talk about goals a lot, and I think it's worth digging deeper into them when the opportunity arises. And I never actually asked you particularly why you chose deeds over words. I think is that how you phrased it?
Yes, I believe so. Yep.
So we'll definitely get into that. And then what really transformed into this was an email that I received from Adam Curry. So I want to tell you guys a little story. So basically, like, did a lot of prep, got Adam's interview up, put up the YouTube video, which took 48 hours to export because I've only got like 4 gigs of RAM here because my computer screwed up. Once again, another story that I'll be talking about. And got it all set up. I even knew coming into it, okay, there's going to be some problems with the value splits because Fountain's been having some issues. I'm not able to edit individual episodes. So what I'll have to do is I'll change it beforehand so that when the episode goes out, it will have the new splits on it correctly.
Yes.
And I kind of left it there for a day, and then I was like, all right, I'll switch it back over to Juan. Now, there's 2 things I did wrong here. One was I switched it over without checking if this is now going to impact all the previous things that have already been released. It shouldn't have, because that's how it worked in the past, but things had changed. So now it was like, oh no, Adam's not getting the splits, which I said he would. The other was I just assumed Juan's Albi was Juan at getalbi.com. Once again, if I'd spent a little bit more time, I could have gone back and realized, oh yeah, no, this is not actually his. So I was sending money essentially to a random person.
The wrong one.
Correct. So this was where I figured it out eventually, fixed it up, and then I sent Adam this email. So let me just bring it up here. So I was basically saying like, hey, Adam, sorry. Look, I stuffed it up. Here's some extra. Here's the Boostagrams that you missed because you would have seen them. And he was like, thank you, Karen. You really didn't have to do that, but I understand your hard-line stance on V for V, and then a smiley face. And then he was just saying, I had a really good time and whatnot. And I think that was just a good point on like integrity as well, which is sometimes it does get noticed, sometimes it doesn't as well. So that'll also play into it.
Cool. So and on the other end as well, you're thinking, hey, that other one, you got some extra cash coming in.
Yeah.
He also showed some integrity in jumping into our Discord, sort of calling out, hey guys, you guys have been sending me money and it's been coming through. And then he subsequently sent through back some of that money that he's been getting.
Yeah, no, I mean, amazing on his portion, because there's a chance it would still be unnoticed.
Yeah, honestly, I don't check it enough. I don't check it enough to be like, oh yeah, hey, something's happening. Yeah, I think I noticed something about maybe I saw it and I was like, oh, I don't know if that splits are coming through.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have picked it up for a long time.
And that's the thing where it's like, I need to know that because I just set and forget for a lot of these things. So yes, a big shout out to Juan, but there's going to be more on him as well. There's an episode where like everything's coming together and they're all interlacing and linking. So let's maybe start with the goal setting, because I was talking a bit from the start there. So it's funny because integrity wise, you might think, shit, we don't have a lot because we say that we're going to do a whole lot of things in our goal setting, in our monthly goals and our yearly goals. But if you've watched them, you realize we get maybe 80%. I'm probably even lower than that than you are. So, okay, well, what's going on there? Do we have any integrity at all if we're saying we're going to do a whole lot of things, but we're not? So I wanted to ask you from the start, like what Why are you focusing on deeds rather than words? Because you never used to care about this from what I can tell. So what's different for this year?
I'm trying to really remember where that was influenced by a podcast, and I can't remember exactly which podcast it was. But there was a note around deeds and deeds being a lot better than words, which is just, deeds is just another form of saying for actions, really. And I think it struck me because I was also similarly looking. I'll have to go back what exactly the goal was for the previous year. But one of the other goals I set for myself annually the previous year was to try to move away from speaking so much bullshit, basically, just talking shit out my heart, whatever, right? And going to more of a, hey, this is what I'm actually doing.
Yeah.
But I didn't word it correctly. Now that I associate it in that, hey, go for actions as sort of like the primary thing is what you should be doing by default rather than the words. That seems to be going down the better path that I'm seeing. Now it's obviously how I apply that. So I think why wanting to apply that is it talking about integrity. It probably helps support integrity better in a generally, if I could imagine is integrious person a thing? Is that an actual statement? Is that a word?
Yeah, I was trying to figure this out before.
If you're a person full of integrity, though,
yeah,
I would be more. I would tick that at a higher level when I see an action match an action expected versus saying something like saying something that you said you were going to say, but then not doing it. I guess I'll try to associate it with.
I was looking up the definition before this, and it was integrity is the practice of being honest and showing a consistent and uncompromising adherence to strong moral and ethical principles and values. And then basically the opposite of it is hypocrisy. So
yes.
That is very much when you say you're going to do something and then you don't, or
you don't do it.
You say one thing but you believe another. So it's very much, it's more like aligning. I think the word itself derives from like wholesome or wholeness, something like that. So
but when
that's roughly what you should be thinking about.
Yeah, but and when it associates with goals, and I think at the superficial level, it might be seen that, hey, you guys are tracking at 70%, 80% in your goals annually, monthly. Where's that integrity? I would say, well, the integrity there in a goal, in its whatever virtual sense you can do it, and specifically to, hey, like when you're tracking a workout, integrity isn't that you achieve 100%, because integrity doesn't mean perfectionism or completeness of a particular task. It's more in the principles of, hey, I've set out something, I'm going to attempt that, I'm going to do that. Yes, you say it, but you also follow through to do it. If you fail at doing it, that doesn't take away the integrity aspect, unless there's a very clear-cut exception where, hey, the thing might have been, something stupid. Okay, when you get home, can you turn on the light of this room? And you don't do that. There's no flexibility there, right? You can be like, oh, no, I didn't do it for whatever reason. Hey, under the words of integrity, maybe you could say you didn't have that. But if you were to say, hey, I'm going to set up a goal of try to interact with 50 people, and you go out there and you do so with 45 people, I would see that as, hey, that's still pretty high integrity, because you're attempting the goal. You're going after, you're taking the action of the words that you're trying to match. You might not met it, but that's not a fault that you were actively pushing against. You're actively trying to obtain that. And so I'd go, okay, there's a high level of integrity behind that.
Gotcha. I actually think they're not related. I don't think if goal setting and trying and attempting things, I don't even think that really falls into the same category as integrity. Mm-hmm. So if you looked at us, can you be, once again, what's the adverb or the integrous person?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I've only ever heard integrity as a noun. A person of integrity, can you have goal setting, be going after that, and also be a person of integrity? And I think you can, because I don't think they're the same thing. So like, to separate them, I would say goal setting is more about you're trying to find a direction. It's kind of a directional thing. You're not saying with uncompromising adherence, I'm going to do this thing, or at least the way that we do it. Maybe if you had, I don't know, a meta goal of life, the kind of thing where you looked in the mirror each morning and you're like, I'm going to do this. This is maybe what as someone who's striving to build a company or something like that would be doing, where it's just like, I'm going to do this no matter what, that sort of thing. And I think you can have integrity and also fail at it. You know, you can be the CEO of a mid to small size company and you're just like, I'm going to create the best, best Cirque du Soleil experience. Tim Ferriss just had the guy who founded Cirque du Soleil on. I don't know much about him, but you can imagine him or someone like him being like, I'm going to create the best circus that there's ever been. And it's 2019 and COVID's going to hit next year. Like you cannot achieve that, even if you are the guy who says, I'm going to do it no matter what.
Best intentions is still not going to environmentally, whatever it may be, work. Well, and this was an aspect of integrity that I was just thinking about, where when people say, hey, Kieran has integrity, this individual has a lot of integrity, in the wholeness way, like, you're talking like the overarching, the kind of, if you really think about it, that doesn't really make sense, right? Because what are you saying there? That they show integrity in every single thing they do?
Every action.
Not really. And so when I really think about it, I go, hey, if I ever want to use the word integrity or what the meaning of integrity means,
it would be specific.
Yeah, it's a very task. It's very specific. It's an in the moment. It's what you see and you go, oh, wow. That person's full of integrity. I could see that from this behavior that they've just demonstrated. You can't really see it at the overall vision of it. And maybe, actually, thinking about that, that's where you couldn't maybe associate it so much in goal setting, especially like really long-term stuff. Because how do you then connect that distinctly? Only when you get to the very minute details of tasks or behaviors that you're repeatedly doing, because integrity is that. It's about the repeatability of it. Yeah. That's when it becomes, oh, okay, cool. If you said, or you had a goal, but underlying that, there's certain behaviors that you have to set up, and the behavior is, I don't know, you have to wake up every morning at 6 a.m. so you can go train, and for 7 months you actually wake up at 9 a.m. and only in a few days you actually get up. Okay, well, in that particular behavior, you're not showing much integrity because you said you're going to go and do this, and you're not doing that. So the goal could be achieved, like to say the goal was to lose 5 kilos. That maybe one of the behaviors underlying that is to wake up at that certain time to go and work out, and you didn't do that. So you could have people achieving goals and not being, a person with integrity with their exact tasks and behaviors that they're following. So yeah, I probably can see that in terms of it being different as well.
I think goals are meant to change as well. If you've got a goal that you're going to become the best at something, or I'm going to be like this, I'm going to be like that. It's a natural part of evolution that you should change as a human being. Someone who is exactly the same in their 40s as they were in their 20s, that's probably a person who hasn't progressed much in their life. And so you could say like, oh, he's got so much integrity. He's going out to party every night when he says he's going to go out and party every night. And he's always going to go out and party every night. And then you're the 40-year-old who's going out and partying every night. Well, that's... maybe you're a man of integrity, but you're also probably don't have much else.
Yeah, but I also think the even though the meaning might apply to that, when people think integrity, they don't go, I guess, to the more debauchery, the more hedonistic side of things. It's more to do with
even the healthy side of things. I'm going to run this much every day, or I'm going to do something active every single day, and then you have a kid, and then you go, oh shit, I can't. That's just not feasible to do that. Yeah. So is that worthwhile? So yeah, I definitely think the goal setting also has that element of prioritization. Which of these two things am I going to do? Yep. I can't pick both. And that's not uncompromising adherence. That's having to go, oh, I'm going to have to choose this one over this one because I can't do both. So unless it's, you have your goals already ordered by, this is the most important, this is the second most, and then you only allow yourself to progress from one to the other, which, I don't know, some people, I don't think I've ever encountered anyone who's who's like that.
That
Whereas
specific.
I have to do this one before I can then do this.
That
sort of thing.
That was one of the notes I actually wrote down in talking about integrity, because importance versus severity is one of those fluctuating pieces that you also have to determine. Not like I'm talking here tasks in generality, and that's what I was talking to someone about this. That's what I generally used to do back in the day in my working sort of career, and so that I would, when I would start a day, I would write down most of the tasks I had to do for that day, and I would put an importance level to it and a severity level to it, and then that would help me determine, hey, what am I doing first? What am I doing second? So as you're talking about this, what exactness do I have to kind of follow through? You could do something like that and apply it to goal settings and the like. I just haven't. I don't think there'll be much value in doing it for that myself. But there is something that comes to the integrity that you have about yourself, and then the integrity that might be seen in people expecting it or inspecting it from when they're seeing you. So if you have a list, again, let's go tasks, talk about something about the podcast, and we determine, hey, priority 1, severity 1, like the highest thing is that we need to make sure that the mic's turned on.
The money's going to the right place.
That, the microphone's turned on, because then no one's listening to us, right? And we say, hey, that's got to be the most important thing. Or let's go with something a bit weirder for audiences. Let's just say we want the audio to be super crispy clear, no pops or whatever. And we go, that's super important. Now, if we continue to deliver on that ourselves internally, we go, cool. And you can determine that's integrity. That's us saying we're not going to misalign from the quality that we want to have with X, Y, and Z, with the audio in this case. We're going to make sure we put the effort, even if it's over and above, to make sure we're doing it right. But then externally, someone might go and go, oh man, they keep saying they're going to share with us some information, or they're going to present something for us, or we're going to update the website.
Yeah.
They've got no integrity. They keep saying it, they're not doing it.
To be fair, it is looking a bit better.
It is looking a bit better. But someone externally might go and say, hey, shit, they keep saying these things and they don't do it. But on our list, lower priority, lower severity. So internally, integrity is good. You go, I'm feeling good about this. I'm tackling what I know I have to.
That's a good point.
Externally, people disagree with that.
Yeah.
And there's always going to be a misalignment, because of course there is. People don't know exactly what your prioritized list is versus their expectation of our prioritized list is in their eyes. So there's a differentiation to be had always in the who's the observant of this integrity piece.
Yeah,
that comes along with it.
Correct. I had this under what gets noticed was my little subtitle here. So it reminds me really of a moment when in high school. So I was probably, I'll say 14, 15 years old. And so, peak hormones. I remember there was a girl in my class who I kind of had a crush on or something. And we were in the library. And I remember like this absolute jackass dickhead of a dude came by, and I think like she said something nice about him or something positive, as in like, oh my God, he's like this or he's like this.
Yeah.
And I remember just being like, you fucking hussy. It was just like, have you no shame? What's the point of having like courage or like all of these, stoic principles or kindness, all these sorts of bullshit things that people say are important.
Karen's about to just lay down some Marcus Aurelius on him.
I was so fucking, I just remember, cause I can't remember, I was reading a book about like knights or something, or in these kind of like children's books, it talks about the courageous guy, and it's like he's the one who gets the girl in the end or things like this. And I was fucking outraged, man. Now look, looking back, there was a whole lot of other stuff going on. I was very misguided. I was bitter. I was not, courageous nor any of these things, which maybe I thought I had more than this guy, and so looking at all of that, I go, okay, well,
maybe that wasn't the case.
Yeah, no, that completely just, hormones, dumb kid thought that went through my head. But it was a very strong moment. I do remember it. And it did get me thinking about like what gets noticed, because at that time I was just going like, well, I'm kind, I'm smart, I'm nicer than this guy. Fucking jack shit it does for me. Like, it's not getting noticed. And once again, this was also because I didn't have other qualities which are useful, such as being courageous and going to talk to a girl and, being witty and funny and all these sorts of things. So is it, here's the question, which I think I had in the subtitle, which was, is it okay to cheat a little, if it doesn't get noticed? So what's the point of integrity having integrity useful if it doesn't get noticed? What do you think of that?
If it doesn't get noticed.
Yeah. So
in some parts, no. In some parts, yeah, I can see that integrity is not needed. But in other ways, I certainly do see it. And this comes directly to the point, the way that we train. Now, I've been exposing the way that I train on a day-to-day basis, sometimes in more detail, sometimes in less detail in the mere mortals in motion. And, you might see that and go, hey, that's a way for you, Juan, to, showcase what you're training, maybe keep you in line. Not really, no, because me and you, we've had reams of paper and information of our workout for a very, very, very long time.
And Lucas as well. He's got his
now,
books.
That level of, do you want to call it integrity, of following the trusted path of putting together we're going to train, if I hadn't sort of put it out there for people to see, I don't think you'll ever really do that. I don't think you've got any motivation to put your training out there for whatever purpose.
Maybe some data of it, but not the actual numbers.
Detail.
The numbers are pretty irrelevant.
Right. So I'll term this is integrity in the dark. But is it helpful? It absolutely is. And I know that I think both of us would feel, if you went down on a day and you said, hey, I plan to do this, and you go, and see, it's very different between achieving and doing. And there's the deeds versus the words. Because integrity is very much deeds versus words. If you said to yourself, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to run 5 kilometers. But not only did you not go out there and say, do 5 kilometers, partly maybe you say, I just walked 2 kilometers, I was injured. There's certain variations of this. But if you just plain talked yourself out of it, you lied about it to yourself or whatever else. Now, you can be lying about it and not recognize it. But if the reality is, hey, you're actually not displaying integrity here because you're saying something to yourself and not doing it, absolutely, that's super harmful. That's going to be a big challenge to yourself, even if nobody sees it. Even if it's in the dark, that's going to be a problem. There are other things, though, which you might not give a shit about, right? And there's, again, to the severity thing. If there's something that's low priority, low severity, that you say, hey, in my mind, I think I should do that. You don't do it. No, you know what? It's not important. Yeah. It's not a bit. And realistically, that's less an integrity call. That's more that's just not important. That's just not what I'm going to do right now from a priority perspective. End of story. But I think it gets really worrisome. It's when it's higher up the food chain on priority and severity. Internally, if it's in the dark and then you're not doing them, shit, you got a problem. That's when your problems are going to arise.
Yeah, I think it's almost kind of quality control for yourself. And that if that's how I was going to frame it. So it is very much trying to make sure, because we all have these options in our lives. Like, do I want to, I'm really tired. Do I want to run that extra 500 meters? Or do I just want to count me walking back to my car as that extra 500 meters? You can do that. You can play all sorts of tricks on yourself. And I think the question is, how often do you do that? How often do you let yourself slide with playing those tricks? I'll sometimes do it when it comes to especially sweets or something like that. Say I'm only going to eat, 4 cookies, but it always comes back to cookies. But then it'll be maybe I was meaning in my head when I said 4 cookies, like these bigger cookies, and I've got these smaller ones here right now. So if I just ate another 1 or 2, then it would equal the bigger cookies that I was originally, there's all these sorts of games that you can play with yourself. Obviously that's a game I've played many a time.
Of course. But I think integrity in the dark, integrity when other people don't see it, is it important in some really low priority shit? No. But in a lot of cases, it is. Why? Because it sets the precedent for what, the things that you do is how you do everything. You do one thing in one particular way, then you repeat it, then it just becomes a habit. And then all of a sudden, when there's things that do matter, you then repeat those behaviors and then you're in strife.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I've got a whole bunch of kind of everyday occurrences of how this comes up. And yeah, I think let's get into that, I suppose, after some Boostagrams.
I think we do that. Yep.
That'll be the best way. So as Juan's bringing them up, the Boostagram Lounge is where we thank everyone who have the integrity to help support the show. So if you find value in this show, we receive your donations and your messages, and we read them out and thank you directly for that, because this does require a lot of integrity, energy, effort to make this happen week in, week out. It's been a very long time since we've missed an episode. So we just want to shout out everyone who has been supporting in and tuning in, and we've still got a good carryover from the Adam episode, because I know there was quite a few things to get through there. So you should be going from, so if today is the 1st, you
26th.
should be going from the 26th sounds about, 25th as of 8 p.m. of the 25th. I think we had one come in live, didn't we, that we missed?
Yeah, I think the one at 7:50 p.m. from Beglitched.
Yeah.
So let's go from there. Beglitched. Great episide. Thanks. Love heart. 500 sats sent using Fountain.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you very much.
Much appreciated.
Joe Martin Music. Love this. 3 lightning bolts. 5,000 sats sent using Fountain.
Oh,
beautiful.
Woo! Another V4V musician there you could check out.
Now this is Juan testing. So this is not me.
Yeah,
this is the other one. He sent through
one.
100 sats sent using Fountain. And then Dave Jones sent through the weekly boost for the Mere Mortal Eyed Nation. And that was 12,112 sats sent using Cron.
Thank you, Dave. Much
Thank you.
appreciated.
Always appreciate it. Now, other one, sent through. Thanks for adding me to the split boost on the Adam Curry episode. And he sent 20,000 sats.
Yeah, and so that
Using
was
Fountain.
that was kind of extra in terms of so that's him just actually donating in 20,000 to the show. So this is where it's just so life is so funny sometimes. So one, obviously, if he's got the one at getalbi.com, he was pretty fresh and new to Albi when it came out to get that handle, because there's a lot of people called Juan in the world.
Yep.
So he was actually just mentioning, oh, by the way, I've got the service called LightSats. And so LightSats is essentially an onboarding way to get onto Lightning. So someone who is already into it, create a wallet or put some Bitcoin that's on the Lightning Network, create some mini wallets, which are kind of already pre-arranged. And then I can give these out to people. So I can print little cards which have a QR code which prompt people to, try out an Albi account or Breeze or Wallet of Satoshi or whatever. Prompt them to do that, and then they can get it, which is actually something we have been saying in the past of, if you don't have any sats, like, we want to help you out, we'll send them to you. It's hard. People don't want to be embarrassed by being like, oh, can I please have, begging us for money to be able to try it out. It's new. I can see why you would not want to actually have someone helping you do this. So if you go to meremortalspodcast.com/support right now, there is a link for someone right at the bottom where not right at the bottom. It's kind of like midway as you're just reading through. And if it basically just says, like, I should probably just go to the site and read out exactly what I wrote. That'd be the easiest way, wouldn't it? So I set up 50 wallets of this so far. So that was, and I put 2,000 sats in each of these wallets. So I just have to cycle these through as they come in. And this will actually work well for our show, because if it was bigger, you'd just have people come in mooching and kind of like taking them.
Yeah, just taking them all.
So what I said at the bottom here was, all of this is confusing, ? Well, what the hell is a sat and Bitcoin on the Lightning Network? Not to worry, I've got something to help you. Below is a link to an onboarding page where you can claim 2,000 sats and learn how to play around with all of these things. And so then it's got lightsats.com/tips and then a whole string of things /claim. So I've got
very cool.
50 links of those. So once that one is claimed, I did set up a thing so it should automatically notify us in the Discord.
Right.
So once someone claims this, so anyone who's watching, if you want to try this out, just go click on this. I'll also at some point get a QR code beneath that. So if you're on a desktop, you can whip your phone out and do the same thing.
Yep.
And yeah, that's just a good way for you to get some sats. And like, fuck, if you get 2,000 from us, send back 1,000 or something,
Yeah.
That'd be really cool.
This gives me, 2011 Bitcoin vibe, and people were just getting it from like the tap of Bitcoin.
Yeah,
right. It's cool. No, I like that. I like that.
So that all came from that random little interaction with Juan, because he's the
LightSats creator, I'm assuming.
Co-founder, co-founder or something like that. So very much thank you. Long way of saying thank you, Juan, for not only reaching out when you notice something crazy like going on, sending us back the money, and then also giving me the little suggestion there, which was a very, very, very helpful tool. And
it's wild.
No fees or anything. Like he's
That's awesome.
He's just genuinely, I think, an altruistic dude who wants to make the Lightning Network and Bitcoin that much easier for everyone. So yeah, if you're tuning in, if you've heard all of us talk about Boostagrams before, and I mean, amazing that you've come all the way here. If you go onto meremortalspodcast.com/support,
You can go play around.
you can have an easier way than we'll ever be able to explain of doing it.
Damn. There you go. Thank you very much, Juan.
Cool. Very cool. Thank you, Juan.
Boulder Dash, boys.
Yep.
Now send through 20,545 sats and using Fountain. That's 2.0 V for V. Wonderful interview, and I'll probably play some clips on our show to help listeners or producers understand the concept of V for V better. Also asking Adam these kind of questions makes a more enjoyable listen. Cheers. So Wes.
Thank you. So he's their show's actually pretty similar to ours in some ways. In some ways, they talk about beer and bourbon a lot because I think their show is called Beer, Bourbon and Boulder Dash. So
they pronounced your name right too.
Nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. And how did you know that?
Know many things. Many things.
Oh my god! Was there an email or something like that?
I know many things.
Sneaky. You've got access to the Mere Mortals account, don't you? Oh no, you're following me on Fountain. That's how it would be. So yeah, their show is very much where they like pick a topic, and they were talking about mental fortitude recently on one of their episodes. So and then I think the one before that was like about mental health or suicide. It was a good episode to listen to. So very much that kind of like philosophy type aspect. So if you actually enjoy our show, if you enjoy us talking about a topic, and
probably another
like
good podcast to check out.
Like that, that's actually a topic which is a show which is similar to us. So beer, bourbon, and Boulder Dash.
Beer, bourbon, and Boulder Dash. I like that. BBB.
Yeah, I love.
Which interestingly, that's the acronym of the team I look after as well. BBB.
Okay.
Another one here. Tumbleweed. 1,000 sats using Fountain. I agree. Wait, Destiny is a great song. Check out Sarah Jade on Wave Lake.
Yeah. For everyone who's tuning in, do you remember that song "Boot Up" by Ella May? Got me boot up, boot up.
Oh, maybe.
It was I think reasonably popular. It's hard to know what level of popularity. If you heard it, you'd probably know it. There's a song by Enid Malel called "Fly" on V4V Music. It like the quality is as high as that. I think it's just as much a banger as Boot Up was, and I really like Boot Up. So there's really good music on there. So and Wait, Destiny is a great song as well. So just saying,
you're getting into it. You're getting into it. I like it. We got one from Kieran Nolan. Satoshis.stream. Great podcast, guys.
Yeah.
100 sats says you can breeze.
Thank you, Kieran. If you want to know, he's been on the podcast twice now. Yeah.
We've got McIntosh. That was fun. McIntosh.
Thank you,
2,100 sats and using Fountain. I'm assuming that's a conversation with Adam.
Yeah, it would be.
We have Budget Stormtrooper. 3,300 sats and using Fountain.
Oh, thank you, my friend.
Good interview. Love the magic internet money. Adam is great listen no matter where I find him. Thank you.
Yeah, he's I can listen to him anywhere. I've heard his story so many times on so many
He's got
podcasts.
a good voice as well. Yeah, I like listening to his voice. It's nice.
Someone actually told me I had a good podcast voice the other day.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
From like
just over the phone.
Or, there you go. Damn. User 865. Blah, 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 blah. I need to learn this way. So much more in tune with my heart. 500 sats using Fountain.
Check out the Value for Value show if you want to know more. That's mine. And get a real name so we can thank you properly.
Exactly. We've got one from Ackerman, V for V episode with the crackpot. 8,008 sats using Fountain.
A big boob deuce.
Ooh,
boob.
Very nice. One that got missed.
So crackpot is Adam Curry. That's crackpot and the buzzkill. That's what they are on the No Agenda.
There you go.
Because he loves his conspiracy theories.
We've got one from Steve Webb.
Can you read it or do you want me to?
Yes, really great conversation with Adam Karen. That's from Fountain. And that was 2,333 sats.
Thank you, Steve.
Or at least your split.
Yes. That should be the full amount. Okay. Oh, no. It should be more than that, actually. I can't remember how much that's. Geez, that could be a real big one.
Yeah.
It's possible. It's possible that's a rather big one if because I think it's 10% That'd be 10% of what it actually is.
There you go. So 23,000.
Thank you very
Damn,
much,
Steve. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so I almost missed that. I checked the Albi account. This is where Satoshi Stream once again is. It's an almost perfect system. If Albi, I'm going to actually talk to the Albi guys because there's a limit of how far back I can see. I can't see a full week's worth. I can only see 3 or 4 days depending on how much streams and stuff have come in. So I was just checking that one. I'm like, I didn't see that in the actual Boostagram Lounge Discord. So it's possible we have missed 1 or 2 people. So if we have, apologies.
Definitely on purpose.
Send me a note in whatever mechanism you want, and I'll do a make good on that. Yeah.
And the final one came in today from Börsen Gelaber.
Yes.
You know who this is?
I know who they are.
Okay, cool. 112 sats. So using Fountain, but I've got a lot of questions here for you.
Börsen Gelaber, which I think
Börsen
means
Gelaber?
stock exchange, something like that in German.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent interview, Kieran. In addition, I have some questions. Hope you can help here.
I can.
Is there a source where I can check out how the thing with splitting the value block between several people? Yes. Is that possible for just one episode? Yes, it is.
Yes.
And how does it work with the chapters? And last but not least, how do you manage to change the thumbnail picture of the podcast during the running of the episode? I saw that Adam does that too. The picture matching. What are you talking about? So cool.
Yes. So essentially, so I'm pretty sure Börsen Gelaber. I don't think he ever says his name in it. I tried tuning in once or twice, and I could kind of understand his German. My German's so. So I believe he comes from the Hive ecosystem. So I'm not sure he's a full-on podcasting 2.0 guy. I think he knows about it through Hive, I believe. The chapters, essentially you need a host which will allow chapters. So I'm not sure which host you have at the moment. I can look that up when we start talking it and maybe tell you at the end. But basically you need a host which will allow you to not only create chapters, but then also to put an image in. Ones that I know for sure do this are Buzzsprout, Blueberry, RSS.com, Fireside. I know those ones do for sure. I think a lot of the others do as well. So it just depends. If you're on somewhere like Anchor though, you won't be able to do that. The chapters, you just have to create the images to put in there. All the other things, I would suggest, I know he's already on the Fountain app. You can use the Fountain wallet, and that will allow you to do splits and things like that. That's how I manage them for this show. And that's probably the easiest way for you to be able to get into it. Yeah. So
there you go.
Use your Fountain username. You can put in Satoshi Stream. You can put in get Albi addresses. You can do all sorts of things with that. And they do normally allow you to do episode splits
Individually.
They've been working on a whole.
There's been some changes. Yeah.
So that will be, I'm assured, will be fixed at some point.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
But yes, thank you very much, folks.
Big one. Thank you, everyone.
Boostagram Lounge, plenty coming in, obviously, off the back of a good conversation there with Adam.
Lots of new names. I hope some people you stick around as well. We do very much appreciate all the support and, these interactions. They're so much fun. So much fun.
So thank you very much for all that support. Means a lot.
For sure. All right, Juan, I wanted to ask you, getting back into it. So I've got a whole lot of things of everyday lives, but how have you implemented over the last, let's say you started in August, your goal, so August, September, October, the last 3 months, the words over deeds and
deeds over words.
Deeds over. How have you implemented integrity? Or if you think of integrity in your everyday life, are there moments where you go, yeah, this is where I do have some integrity. I do this and people don't notice perhaps, or especially the ones that aren't getting noticed, because those are the real interesting ones.
Yes.
He's got nothing, people.
I was thinking this through. No, there's definitely a few. I mean, the ones that probably go unnoticed to, people who are listening to the podcast, or just, I guess, things in everyday life would be, I guess, commitments that I've made to, like, in myself to say, like family life, in having a little baby girl, in that internalization of, hey, I'm going to go and do this, and so I'm gonna act on that and make my best efforts to go and do that particular thing. It could also be just even having a level of it blends a bit with discipline, but having the level of saying, hey, I need to not train because of prioritizing something else, and then having the integrity internally to make sure that I don't go ahead and move that away from the expectation. So it'll be so easy. And that's why, one of those deeds over words aspects was, rather than, talking about the fact that, during a move, like a house move, I'm not going to train, and this is what happened, this is all going. I'm going to go through it all and know that first and foremost is the actions to do the things I need to, and then, I might be able to articulate them later, but it holds me, I guess, to the account that, I'm saying it to myself and I'm thinking it, but I've got to be some actions that I've got to take place first before then deciding to then put that into words. It's still pretty fresh though. So it's not every month at the moment that I've got a particular goal set to it. So with my annual goals and like yours, not every single one of my annual goals will be tackled every month, because I've got whatever it might be, 16, 19 annual goals. And so some of them will be attempted per month, not all of them. Yeah. So, I might see that the deeds over words maybe only into plays into the months, 4 months, 5 months, but it won't be every single time.
Yeah, for sure. So I've got a couple here where I think examples of how I try and do this in everyday life. And it's kind of getting back to what gets noticed, the hit and miss. I think it's mostly miss. People will miss you doing good things the bulk of the time. So if you're trying to have integrity, be prepared for a lot of it not getting noticed. It's not related to if you need the mechanism of feedback of people telling you you're doing good, or that you are a person with integrity. I don't think this. Don't try and be that. Yep. Yeah, don't try and be that person, because I don't think it gets noticed that often. So here's one, for example. The season 2 of the Value for Value podcast. Kieran playing on his laptop, everything's all good, and then bam, it just starts having the blue screen of death constantly. I can't even get to the desktop stage. It just keeps screwing up consistently. Basically, have to get a guy come, he grabs a laptop, he plays around with it, he gives it back. I pay him a whole bunch of money. He takes out one of the replaces the SSD or some bullshit, gives it back to me. Obviously doesn't test it very well, because it starts crashing immediately again. And I'm like, dude, what's this? He comes back and then figures out eventually that it was there's 2 RAM cards on this particular laptop. One of them, the actual connection to the RAM was screwing up, and so you just couldn't use that slot. So I still actually have the 4 gig RAM module, whatever it's called, but my computer's just working on half power. In the whole process of this, I had to completely hard reset the whole computer, is what he did. So all passwords, all things, all were gone. And I'd forgotten the password to get into Casterpod, and I had one more episode left of the Value for Value show of that season. And I went, I'm going to have to completely reconstruct this whole feed, because I put the lock tag on it stupidly as well, which then means another host won't allow me to import it.
Yep.
So I had the option, like, should I do this? Like, is it worthwhile me doing this? Reconstructing this whole fucking thing just to be able to get this next episode out on time, which was a day or 2 away. And that was when I went, yeah. So I spent probably like 6 hours just reconstructing a whole feed, putting all the audios up, getting a new website, new Casterpod instance to be able to put all this stuff up for one episode, for one thing. Yeah. And I look back at that, I'm like, was that worth it? And this is where I just don't know. It was worth it for me. It was worth it for me to be able to say, when I say I'm going to deliver an episode, I fucking do it. And it's, technical glitches aside, I'm still going to do it. And I got it out on time. Everything worked up. It wasn't as perfect because I had to create a new feed. So all these people looking at my old feed is now. So it was really like absolutely shooting myself in the foot to make sure no one notices. I'm going to reconstruct a whole new thing. So no one will notice unless it's me telling them like, oh, by the
That's
way,
exactly
you're
what's happened.
You're gonna have to go to this new place. So that was one where I'm like, okay, you know, a lot of this stuff is going to get missed. You just have to accept it. And this is where it also gets to like, I think you have to play with the boundaries to find out if it matters or not. Because you were saying before, people will think, oh, they don't realize you're putting tons of importance on this thing and this thing that they find important and you don't give a shit about. That's
just a mismatch.
Yeah, and they're like, well, you don't have integrity. You said you were going to do that thing, but
really, it doesn't really matter to you in the full time.
Much like the goals, we say we're going to do a lot of things, but we say that knowing that it's probably only going to be 60 to 80%, something like that.
Exactly. Yeah. And within those goals is going to be some that are more priority, less priority. That's just how it naturally is as well.
So I think you have to kind of test the boundaries. So for example, with the YouTube stuff, with the book reviews, I do the live, and there's a whole chunk at the start where it's me just fiddling around, getting stuff sorted. I do the episode. I then, you know, cut it down. I do it all in one chunk. So the chapters from the audio will match the chapters on the live. But I have to wait basically a full day for YouTube to allow me to cut off that 2.5 minutes at the start. And I always just went, no one gives a shit.
Until someone gave a shit.
Until someone finally gave a shit, which then means probably that there was 10 times the amount of people who did give a shit in the background who just never said anything.
Yep.
So this is once again where it's like, I think sometimes with integrity, there's no point also doing it if you're doing something for other people and it's just not getting noticed.
Yeah, good point.
And so sometimes you're going to have to bend the rules and do not what you say you're going to do just to find out if it even matters.
It even matters.
Does anyone actually care about this thing? You know,
well, clear point is in the mere models in motion, right? At the beginning, I sort of said, "Hey, I'm going to put the details through of this is the exact training regime, and here's like 4x8 of the incline bench, whatever, right? All the detail."
Yeah.
But you gave me that feedback. I kind of found it my way as I was doing it because I'm running in advance. I went, look, no one's really calling out that they really want that. I'm spending more time with it. I'm just not going to do it. I'll just see if anybody cares about it. And I've enjoyed doing them more now without that. I seem to get a better reaction without that stuff anyway. So okay, well, who cares then? Like I won't have that. So sometimes you can say something and not do it, but also testing the waters that, well, it doesn't really matter. But one point actually, and I want to miss it, is a lot of stuff we're talking about with integrity. I'm thinking it's in a vacuum or it's in good states. Integrity in good states or in a vacuum, that's fairly easy, right? If you want to say, like what we were just talking about, hey, we did this and there's challenges to it, but in its individuality as a piece, as a task, well, sure, you can say and do it. Like it's just the effort of doing it. But have you heard of the concept, or there's a thing they call in like environment or like management complex called the VUCA, VUCA? Have you heard about before?
Never.
Anyways, it basically what it stands for is volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Used a lot in projects and a few other things. But what I pulled it out and was like, well, when does integrity actually matter as well? From another angle, it's when you're in an environment full of VUCA, full of volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Because if you add whatever task you want to think about and then add all of those and then you go and do the thing you said, that's integrity. Like, you've overcome more factors that should make it more challenging to do the thing you're going to do. So, an example for me would be like, okay, training, right? I said to myself, that tail end of November, part of my monthly goals, I am not going to go train. I'm going to fully focus on, the house move and a few other things. But November the 1st was today. And I'm still kind of not really unpacked. I haven't created any monthly goals yet. I haven't had any time to go do that. But my monthly goals were all the way till October. And I went, hey, 1st of November comes. I want to get back on it. And one, volatility, you betcha. There's a whole host of volatility going on right now. Uncertainty, I didn't even know what time I was going to fall asleep. Didn't know what time I was going to wake up. I didn't know what my clothes were to go to the gym. I had to reuse a different shirt, folks. Complexity, I had to figure out just timing of a couple of things. And ambiguity, had no idea what I was going to train. I felt sore all over from just moving and a few other things. So here's an environment where, fuck it. Integrity, when you say you wake up and you had a good sleep and you had all the time, Of course, you're going to have integrity because you can do it. It's easy. But what about when you have all that shit? When it's hard, when you're stressed out, when it's all those things. When you then follow through on the things that you've said you're going to do and do them, even with all of those things, okay, you're starting to now really touch on, okay, that's integrity because you're doing it knowing full well that it's maybe a high priority and severity thing for yourself. So internally still accustoming to that. But a lot of people could look at it externally and say, you had almost every right not to follow through with that, but you followed through with it. That's like a good definition I would see as integrity. That the more challenges or blockers, obstacles are in place, and you still do the thing that you're going to do, and here, externally people seeing it, no matter what it is to you at the very least, they can define that as, hey, that's a good level of integrity.
I think that's a great way of framing it, because I was writing here as, I personally don't think of it much in my everyday life. Integrity, when have I ever thought about that other than 14-year-old Kieran thinking it was like the biggest joke ever? Almost never pops across my mind. But just from the definition and even just from that framing, it's one of those ones where I go, you know what, this is maybe something I should start to think about a bit more, just to see. I think it's another way of looking at people, looking at myself and going, okay, is this a person who does have integrity, and is that actually a useful way of filtering through people or deciding if I want them in my life or not? The follow-up is, I think it forces you to follow up if you have integrity. I had to follow up with Adam and do that thing. I didn't have to, but I did it because I had integrity in that, at least in that one specific instance.
Yep.
Especially when it comes to money. This is one where I really try and nail down. I don't want to fuck people over out of money, especially intentionally, but even unintentionally, that really, really bugs me. So I will go out of my way to do things, be like, I'm so sorry. Like if I mess this up, I don't know how much it was. I'll add even a bit extra just to make sure that you're even. I prefer to send money if we split the bill going out as friends. I prefer to split it like straight away if I can.
Yep.
Do it as soon as possible. Just not let things linger like that. So I think having integrity in certain places, make sure you follow up. And also with that VUCA, Lucas in the chat was saying, so Lucas, my friend from Brazil, he came here and into Australia, and I met him and we really connected. And he said, I said once I'd be in Australia, and I'm telling you, one day I'll be back, mate. And that's one where I'm like, okay, yeah, I think you can only, for some things, just have integrity kind of once a year. It's as in like, I'm going to do this no matter what. I was like this with my ex and who was Colombian. I was in Argentina. I was finishing up my big trip around the world, was coming back home basically, coming to Japan and then back home. And she was just very uncertain. She's like, what's going to happen? Are we going to see each other again? That sort of thing. And I had in my mind, like, look, it doesn't matter. No matter what, I'm going to see you again. If you don't come to Australia, I'll come back to Colombia. I'll come to Argentina. I don't give a shit. Like, this relationship is important to me. We'll see each other again. Doesn't matter. Once again, if I'd said that just before COVID, I could have been in had integrity and then been like, oh shit, COVID.
Yeah.
What do I do now? Like, am I going to break the law for this? Like, is it that important sort of thing?
Yeah.
Thankfully, it didn't come to that. She came to here, so we did see each other again. So I kept my word. But it's one of those ones where it was in my mind. The VUCA, it didn't even matter. The volatility, uncertainty,
complexity,
ambiguity, all of that was there. We had no solid plans. We had no set thing. Lucas is very much the same. He doesn't know, money wise, when he'll have enough to come back, job wise, all those sorts of things. But he says it, and this is one where I'm like, I'm pretty sure he's going to come back someday. And so that's where it's like, yeah, I think you can only get. It's like a one-off or a twice a year sort of thing where you can say, like, no matter what, I'm going to do this thing. This is, especially if it's a big thing like moving a country or something really, really big like that. Yeah.
I basically had one way of really summarizing it in my mind. So obviously you can get to the details we're talking through, but There's a phrase that gets used, again, there's more of from a work context, but I think it applies really well both in a personal sense, both in external sense with other people, and it's closing the loop. So I guess if I had to really say, if someone had to ask me, how do I show integrity? How can I be a person of integrity? Whatever it may be. I think I would say closing the loop. And what I mean by that, whether it is internally, and this is, yes, leaning towards deeds over words, but if you're closing the loop with yourself about the things that you're doing, or closing the loop with external people that you're interacting with, then what you are doing is you're saying something to yourself, to other people. And then when you take the action, it doesn't succeed or it succeeds, you close the loop regardless of that.
Yeah,
and that in itself builds integrity. Because integrity, and going back all the way to the beginning, doesn't mean perfection, doesn't mean achievement. It means you're following through to an expectation that you've set to yourself or somebody else. Mm-hmm. But if you close the loop and dismiss that expectation, you're then readjusting the expectation and showing it. In a work context, just as an example, we've had many times where we've said, hey, yep, this is basically almost done. We'll let you know by the end of the day or by the end of tomorrow. The end of tomorrow will come, check in with people. Hey, no, it's not going to work. It's done, whatever. Okay, fine. We've tried our best. You go through all that. Awesome. You close the loop. You go back to stakeholders. You go back to whatever and say, hey, we said this. We did this. It didn't work. Here, I'm resetting your expectation. This is what's happened. Awesome. They can be frustrated that the thing didn't work, but they're not going to be frustrated on integrity of, hey, you said that you've done something, you come back and you've explained to us or you've put some details together. Same thing for yourself. You might put down that you're going to run 10 kilometers. I've done this many times where I was like, hey, I'm going to write down, I'm going to do 8 kilometers, I'm going to do 10 kilometers. And I don't do it. I'll do 6 kilometers. And I'll reflect on that and go, look, if I'm being honest, I didn't give myself enough time. There was other things happening on that day that I didn't prioritize. I didn't realistically, probably wasn't ready to do a 10 kilometer, whatever. As long as you're closing the loop with yourself, you're going to hold yourself to a level of integrity to say, okay, I've attempted something, I've done an effort, I've reflected on it, I've got some learnings, so that next time you're either not fooling yourself, you're being realistic in your situation, etc. So I think closing the loop for me on integrity pieces, as a summary, I'd say, yeah, it'd be pretty close, something like that, to becoming a person of integrity or an integrous person, if that's a thing.
Integrous, yeah. Yeah, what a weird word. Yeah, for me, I suppose summary-wise, it's something I've never really thought about, but even just from that definition, it ticks a whole bunch of boxes, which I'm kind of, like consistency. Oh, that's a big one for me. Uncompromising adherence. So I also kind of like that. And I think you'll see in the monthly goals coming up that I'm actually going to start looking for this a bit more in people and in myself, and trying to figure out how this shows up in everyday life, and if there are some correlations and things. Lucas was saying he actually really enjoys the phrase like integrity in the dark. I also really kind of like that as well. Mm-hmm. It's not that showy kind. Mm-hmm. A small side story here was my friend Brendan, who Lucas also knows because we were handstand buddies. We were discussing one day about, when do you count how do you count your reps, especially if it's for something like a max hold? When do you count? And for me, I was just like, well, I count it from whenever my foot leaves the ground to whenever it hits the ground again. Mm-hmm. And that's how I do it. And Brendan, being Brendan, was absolutely disgusted and was like, oh, you count that? No, for me, it's when I get in position and when I feel there's balance until the moment where I lose it, which basically means that for him, getting a 10-second one-arm handstand is going to be 1.5 times harder than me, because my 10-second will basically be like his 15-second, because I'll include the kick up or when I say for a one arm, it'd be from the moment I let my hand go off, I suppose, not just the kick up. So this is one of those ones where it's like, I think it's also, we can both have integrity, but variations of it, as long as I adhere to my thing, as long as he adheres to his thing, we can be on completely different wavelengths in terms of what counts or what doesn't count, but both of us can have integrity. And it's, that was I've known him for years, and that's the first time we've talked about noting like counting a handstand, something that's all we do together, basically. So it's one of those ones. Yeah, it's kind of in the dark as well. I think writing down for training notes as well, getting back to the original thing. Do you ever write down a rep that you actually haven't done yet? So I'm going to lift this thing 5 times. Will you write that down physically or in your notes or in your phone before you've actually done it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I guess the way that I do it is I will now digitally create, hey, this is going to be my workout for tomorrow. And that's what I'm hitting.
Okay.
And if it deviates away, I'll make a note as to why that wasn't. So like I've got lots of examples to show you, like, oh yeah, that day didn't hit that, didn't do this. And I'll make a little note as to why. But 95% of the time, I'm hitting the things that I'm writing down I'm going to do.
Okay. So I do the opposite approach, which is I know exactly what I'm going to be doing in the session, but I dislike the pressure of having to hit certain targets. I love to hit PBs all the time, but I can't do that. So what I do is I don't allow myself to write down a rep, even if I know I'm going to get it. So in particular, handstands is weirder because it fluctuates all over the place, unless you're specifically trying to hit 1 minute, whatever. Sure. But for other things, which I do know exactly what I'm going to do, I'm thinking particularly legs here, which I can just rep things out forever for certain movements. And it's like, I don't want to do that. I'm just going to hit to a certain level and just do that as max as I can. So for today, for example, I was doing like hip flexor raises. I was doing some stuff like cable rows, trunk rotations, things like that. And I know exactly how many reps I'm going to do. I do not allow myself to write down how many I've done until I've actually done them in the book. And I've done this for years and years and years now. I just won't let myself write it down until some days I actually do. Like today, for example, because I missed this one because people were on the machine. Note to everyone at home, don't use gym machines. There's no point. There's like, you're just going to spend all your time waiting around. What a fucking piece of shit, waste of time. And these guys were doing it. I had my book there. I'm like, I'm already writing down all the others. I'm like, I'm just going to write down this one. And then when they go, I'll do the last set and then I'll leave. These dudes were hanging around forever. And because I'd already written it down,
you had to wait.
I had to wait. And so I basically waited an extra 15 minutes just to do one set.
Yep.
Just to do one fucking set of things. And yeah, this is where it's like, I think you can kind of bend and cheat the rules a little sometimes if you know that you've got a kind of backup in place. But if you cheat and then that gives you the inspiration to cheat more, then that's a bad thing.
That's a downfall.
That's not going to be helpful for your integrity.
No, absolutely. Anything else in from the comments at all?
No, so Lucas was just saying, wait for me, kak. That's how they laugh in Portuguese.
K-A-K-A in Colombia.
Dang, a bodybuilder guy here. I guess maybe he's referring to me. I hope not.
Probably.
So no, that's the main one. Börsen Gelaber as well. I checked out your feed. Dude, I have no idea what the hell this is. 3qcom3.podcaster.de solernenvia.rss. I'm assuming that's a German hosting company. I've never heard of that before. Let me try and just get rid of this last bit here and see what shows up. It helps if I click the right side. But if this is a German hosting company, I'm not sure if they're going to be on top of the latest. No, see, this is your own website. So if you have access to the RSS feed, you can create your own chapters, which is maybe what you're doing. I'm not sure. In which case, go to the podcast index and GitHub, and then check out the specs there for what you want to do. Or you can just look at mine and copy it out. It's not that hard. The JSON files are pretty easy to figure out.
Damn.
So yeah,
there you go.
There you go. Thank you, everyone. So that was Börsen Gelaber from the Boostagram Lounge. If you enjoyed something from this episode, there's very many ways you can support us through the Value for Value method, which is what we do here. You will never hear advertising nor sponsorships because we have integrity, and I have that's never going to happen on this show. So we get support from you directly at home. So there's 3 ways you can do this: time, talent, and treasure. Time, share it with someone. If you enjoyed this, if you enjoyed the Adam Curry episode, pass that on to someone else as well. Talent, is there something that you think that we're doing that you put value on and that we don't realize? You know, links to the show notes. I know Juan will do different things in his episodes of Mere Mortals in Motion than I do. So, you know, if you feel there's some consistency being missed or something like that, please let us know. And if there's topics that you want us to talk about as well, like Lucas did the previous week, we always want those.
Yep.
And then finally, treasure. We were mentioning the Boostagrams before. The best place to go is to meremortalspodcast.com/support. I've got all the links there. So if you want links to an app that you can use, if you want to know how to do it, if you want a review of all the apps, if you want to use the PayPal, I should check the PayPal just before we end up here as well.
That support page definitely has now plenty of links, video, a lot of things to get people going.
There's a lot. I'm actually pretty damn happy with it. It could still use a tiny little bit more, but in comparison to where it was 6 months ago,
I got a lot more information.
I'm really happy. And you could also be the first one to send us a PayPal if you wanted to.
Do you want to go down that far?
Have a special place in my heart. So
still available.
Can't believe people aren't jumping in on this.
God.
It's a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Oh, well, we might have to wait for the next one. Mere Mortalites, I think we're going to leave it there. Thank you very much for tuning into the Musings episode here with the Mere Mortals. Once again, 7 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time from Brizzy on a Wednesday is when we do these live. So if you want to be tuning in live like some people have been, do that. If you're listening to it afterwards and you want to tune in, go and take a look.
It should be just about your Wednesday, no matter where you are in the world.
Just about.
It could just be very early morning.
Yeah. Very, very early for some. I hope you're well wherever you are in the world. Mere Mortalites, Juan out.
Kieran out. Bye.